Hello and welcome. Today we are in the Tier 9 US heavy cruiser, the Buffalo. The title of the video is actually a question. I would like you guys to tell me in the comments how I should play this ship. I'll show you how I played at this match, and I'll tell you exactly why I do the things I do, and at the end of the video I'll also show my setup. However, the ship doesn't feel quite right. It feels as though I'm missing something. The ship just doesn't feel strong enough to be a Tier 9 cruiser. I would rather have the Baltimore be Tier 9 than be in the Buffalo. Sure, you have 12 turrets, but you lose so many things, which I'll go over later. Here though, I pushed up, because obviously you want to at least be able to radar the destroyers, and all of the US heavy cruisers would be relatively the same as long as they have the radar, so Baltimore would be just the same as my current ship, and the HE spam is somewhat comparable. The Buffalo has about 11% more damage output with HE than the Baltimore. Only 11%, despite the fact that you go from 9 turrets or 9 guns to 12. But sadly the Buffalo has a 12-second reload compared to the Baltimore's 10. As a result, your damage output doesn't actually increase nearly as much. And if you point only your front turrets at the enemy, then sadly you actually lose damage output. Which is also quite kind of bizarre, because that's something you seem to need to do at times in these kinds of ships, because you want to utilize your 27mm bow and stern armor. Regardless though, we managed to sink one of the destroyers. Well, actually, the team managed to sink another destroyer on the other side of the map. So I would say we're in a very good spot as a team. The enemy only has 2 destroyers left, whereas we have 3. And that should give us plenty of opportunity to be able to take the map over from the enemy team. Now, I will show how I have my ship set up, but I'll just mention I do not have the concealment upgrade. I actually find it kind of difficult to believe that I'm playing a cruiser without the concealment upgrade, but the rudder shift on the Buffalo simply feels too slow not to take the second rudder shift upgrade. Because it's 11.2 seconds. Compare that to the Baltimore's 7.8. Anyway, that's a Riga showing broadside. That's a bad idea. Okay. Overpens. We'll do better next salvo. Come on. Come on, Riga. Come on. You want to go down now? Okay, 17k. Close enough. And I'm sure she's going to be punished in oh, she is still not showing broadside. Okay. Goodbye, Riga, then. And then we're swapping back to HE. So, what I wanted to say is I use the rudder shift upgrade instead, the minus 40%, because even with this upgrade I have a 6.7 second rudder, which is, you know, 1.1 seconds better than the Baltimore, but still I would expect a lot more. However, I find it to be necessary, not to mention that the 10.7 kilometer concealment on the ship isn't good enough anyway, so whether it's 11.9 or 10.7 isn't quite as important. I would obviously like it to be better, but I simply need a fast-moving rudder. And when I take the rudder upgrade that's minus 40%, I can obviously just take the propulsion mod in the other slot. That way, you know, the ship is fairly maneuverable. And I also have the range upgrade, because the 15.6 kilometer base range on the ship, that's even with the module, is not good enough. You need more range in a Tier 9 cruiser, because quite often you will find that even 18 kilometer range is simply not enough. However, in this match it works out well. You know, the enemy is somewhat advancing, that Soyuz is coming closer, so it's not that big of a deal. And I have other battleships on my team that actually pushed up, which means that I am not the closest ship to the enemy. However, this isn't always the case, especially when you're in Tier 10 battles. And so the Buffalo feels kind of lacking in those kinds of matches. Regardless, though, right now, we're simply going to continue shelling the Soyuz. One thing I have noticed, though, AP seems surprisingly effective against the broadsides of battleships. However, obviously HE is also pretty good because it starts fires and all of that. Still though. I would really like the Buffalo to have something extra, because let's just go over the stats, okay? She has, compared to the Baltimore, which is the one tier lower ship, she has 800 meter worse surface detection, so 10.7 kilometers versus 9.9. This is a big deal because your radar range is 10 kilometers on both of them. When the Baltimore gets spotted, she can immediately radar and will spot the enemy. When the Buffalo gets spotted, she can't do that. She has 600 meter worse air concealment range, 6.5 versus 5.8. And the issue there is that your anti-air range itself is still 5.8 kilometers. If planes spot the Baltimore can essentially immediately open fire with the AA guns, whereas the Buffalo cannot. Then on top of that you have the rudder shift time I already mentioned, 11.2 seconds versus 7.8. That's an additional 3.4 seconds on the rudder. It seems kinda crazy, it feels like something's missing there actually. And then what do you gain? Well, you gain an extra turret, but unfortunately this also comes with the, I don't know, negative effect that your reload is somehow 12 seconds instead of 10. Therefore, you only gain 11% damage per minute output, which just seems kinda lacking. Of course, because it's a tier 9 ship, you know, you get a heal, which is always nice, and you get the tier 9 upgrade. Regardless though, you also get some extra HP. Armor-wise though, it's relatively similar. The main armor plating, you know, the bow, stern, side, deck are all 27mm, and it's the same on both of the ships. So you don't really gain anything in that aspect. And oh, you also lose 70 meters in turning circle. You go from 730 meters on the Baltimore to 800 on the ship. All in all, the ship just doesn't feel quite as good. It feels much more sluggish. And the firepower advantage seems minor at best, because they have the same HE and AP shells. So I don't really know what the ship is for. Also, I'm pretty sure the ship is just bigger as well, so it's a bigger target. However, that doesn't mean it's all bad. Of course, it's a somewhat acceptable cruiser. We're still dealing with like a tier 9 cruiser that can play the game, and you'll see this in a little bit, okay? So far, the engagements I've had have been mostly down to luck and the enemy's just not engaging me. They've been engaging other ships and I've just been on the side, you know, picking ships off. However, now, as you can see in the corner, we have a Bismarck and a Scharnhorst on the enemy team. And because my bow, stern, deck armor, etc. are all 27mm, I can simply push into them. All I have to do is point my bow or stern at them and simply just not show too much broadside. I don't think I can bring all 12 guns to bear while showing broadside, although maybe against the Scharnhorst it's fine. You know, she's unlikely to citadel me, I believe, with the AP penetration. However, I do need to worry a little bit about the Bismarck. And I think the Bismarck also knows that she cannot overmatch my bow, and considering how I'm positioned, she has aimed at the battleship behind me. I think that makes a lot of sense. I would do the same. Wow, 8k damage with that HE salvo? That's actually quite incredible. I suppose the Buffalo does have one very nice aspect, which is high alpha damage, because you have the extra turret of 3 guns. That does actually help quite a bit. I don't really know how much worth high alpha strikes are, but it's definitely worth something. Anyway, here I don't want to advance towards the enemy, because you can see where the positions of the Scharnhorst and Bismarck are, right? They are going away from one another, which means that if I kept pushing up, the angle... Right now, I can angle against both of them at the same time. But if I keep going closer and closer, I have to stop angling against one of them, because, you know, the angles get too steep and it will be impossible to angle against both of them. So I had to make sure I didn't push up there. But I think we can deal with the Scharnhorst fairly quickly at this point, and then I simply need to just keep my nose pointed at the Bismarck and we'll be safe. Meanwhile, we're winning the game, although ships-wise it doesn't seem that amazing, but because we've controlled 2 points, we have taken a substantial points lead. And that's goodbye to the Scharnhorst. Excellent, now it's only the Bismarck left. Now I don't want to advance too close, because she might have secondaries, and obviously those secondaries will deal a significant amount of damage. Right now she's broadside, so I fired my EP salvo since I had that loaded, but now I'm gonna swap to HE, and I simply want to keep turning my ship towards the Bismarck. Turn in, that is, so that the angle is enough that the Bismarck simply bounces off due to autobounce. So, some people might not know what autobounce is. So basically, when you fire AP shells, you have to hit an armor plate at a specific angle. If the angle is too... Wow, yeah, I guess I didn't angle enough this time. I just took 21k damage from that Bismarck salvo. I need to angle better. Also, I need to advance so that there is the island to my left. Right? Yeah, left. Because if there isn't an island, the Massachusetts from the middle can shoot me. But as long as there is an island there, I'll be fine. Bismarck's firing again. I'm turning in. Anyway, so the way autobounce works is if you fire at an armor plate, and if the armor plate is at an angle, then your shells, if the armor plate is at 0 to 45 degrees, that is, it is perfectly flat until diagonal, in that case, I think every AP shell will simply penetrate it. And then it does the penetration calculations, whether it can actually, you know, penetrate through it, has enough power for it. But from 45 to 60 degrees, there's a chance that these shells will penetrate the armor plate. And above 60 degrees, there is no chance for normal AP shells. The US heavy cruisers have special AP shells with better autobounce angles. For them, it's 60 to 67.5 degrees, so anything from 0 to 60 degrees will penetrate normally. 60 to 67.5 will have a chance of not penetrating, and then above 67.5 it's guaranteed that you do not penetrate anymore, or you will autobounce, ricochet off of the armor plate. And so that's what I'm trying to use against this Bismarck. Battleships, I believe all of them are 45 to 60 degrees. So this means that as long as I am diagonal, or slightly more than diagonal, I will be okay. Oh, we got an arsonist. Also, we got the Wither earlier, meaning we have got a lot of fire damage. Anyway, there's only 3 of them left, so even though I have not that much HP, and that is a Massachusetts, I'm going to go in close for a fight. Because I don't think it matters that much for winning the game. If I wanted to make it safe, I would actually turn my ship around and sail in the opposite direction. Make it harder for the Massachusetts to be able to land shells for me. Because remember, I have the rudder shift upgrade, I have the propulsion mode upgrade. This makes the ship fairly slippery. You know, it's not the greatest, but it's fairly slippery. So I would try to utilize those. But because the Massachusetts is the only battleship left and there are only 2 other ships, I think I will just take the risk and go close. Because, hey, we're doing pretty well right now, and I would really like it if I did even better. But this game has, though, worked out well. At the start, my teammates were helpful, you know, they tanked for me, which is kind of unusual, and the enemies shot the actual teammates rather than me, which was also unusual. And then we ended up fighting ships that cannot overmatch my bow, which was also superbly useful. By the way, overmatching means that you ignore ricochet angles. Okay, so the Massachusetts is going to fire. I'm gonna try to do the same thing I did again, or tried against the Amagi. That is, I'm going to hope that she fires at my armor, side armor, and then never mind. I wanted her to fire at my side armor, so that the shells would ricochet off of that, because that's a really thick armor plate, or would at least be unable to penetrate. Because she can go through my bow. Massachusetts has 406mm guns. Unfortunately, I was unsuccessful. That Massachusetts just outplayed me and promptly deleted me. If you play in tier 10 battles, that's quite often what happens to you when you fight battleships, because virtually everything there can overmatch you. I suppose the Burgon is like the only thing that can't, out of the battleships, that is. And so when you're in a tier 10 battle, that's usually what happens, which is why you need the range. You know, if I had been at range, I probably would have survived at least 1, probably even 2 salvos. But because I got greedy, I got punished for it, but then again, I had a pretty decent game. The enemy has really no chance of winning here, especially with the New Orleans taking such a massive salvo. Although I do think the Massachusetts is gonna win against this Monarch with the secondaries and all that, but there's a Richelieu coming in from the middle, so there is no real chance that the Massachusetts will win this. Oh, the Massachusetts actually swapped targets to the Richelieu in the middle, because she noticed the Monarch is going to go into the fire, I guess. Or, I suppose she used her main guns. Then again, she only has 5k HP, although she is healing now. Ooh, this is... No, it really isn't interesting. Because let's imagine that this Massachusetts somehow, through a miracle, manages to sink the Richelieu. I don't know, she gets a detonation or something. Anyway, that guy deserves a compliment. Let's imagine that she somehow detonates the Richelieu. She still isn't gonna win, because we win by points in 2 minutes. And we have both the A and B caps, and there's only 3 minutes left in the game. And there is a 0% chance that she is able to sink that kid. I mean, the kid couldn't even screw this up. She literally couldn't even throw this game, because she is so far away. 36 kilometers. You would need a Yamato with range upgrade and a scout plane to fire that far, okay? Which, obviously, we don't have in this match. Yeah, GG Massachusetts, GG. Okay, that's secondaries firing. This is a smart usage of the scout plane to be able to get vision of the Richelieu. This Massachusetts plays really well. I really wish I hadn't tried to duel her, because she truly does know what she's doing. Consider that that guy got down to like 4 or 5k HP, now she's at 15k already. And I foolishly tried to man-fight her, which, in retrospect, I would do it again. I would just do it differently. I don't know. I don't really know what I would do differently, actually. I'd probably do the exact same thing, and just hope that he is less successful that time. But I think his days are numbered. He's on fire and has no way of dealing with that. And obviously showing broadside to Richelieu, who will fire in never mind. Not even necessary. But that was a very well played game by the Massachusetts. I kind of feel bad for him. He probably should have won this. Regardless though, considering the game I had though, 242,000 damage, 11 fires, 5 citadel hits, Witherer, Arsonist, Confederate, and High Caliber. And this put me at 2376 base XP. The reason why I don't have like an amazing amount of base XP is because I fought against lower tier ships, tier 7s, the Scharnhorst, tier 8, the Bismarck for example, and because of that I didn't get so much. But notice that, I have 80,000 damage from fires, with 11 fires set only. So that actually explains a lot of why I have so much damage done. You see, I was with a Monarch at the start, right? That guy is probably the guy that set the battleships on fire, and then they damage conned, and then I set them on fire again, and then they didn't have a damage control party, and that's how I got so much fire damage. In other words, I was stupidly lucky. The game just kinda lined up for me. So don't take this kind of a match, you know, as an example of, hey, look, the Buffalo is just great, she's amazing, look, Aerroon did 242k damage, why is he still complaining? That's because I do feel like I don't know how to play the ship. Maybe I just haven't figured it out properly. But honestly, it feels as though something's missing on the ship. She feels like she should be more agile, for example. She probably shouldn't have 200 meters less range than the Baltimore. She probably shouldn't have this big of disadvantage in concealment or the worse reload. Anyway, I got 80k Captain XP here, but that's because I basically set everything for Captain XP. Anyways, let's take a look at my Captain skills. So, Priority Target, then Adrenaline Rush, then Superintendent because of the heal, then Concealment Expert, and after that, it's not quite as important, although Expert Loader is extremely nice, and so is Jack of all trades. You know, you get your heal back faster, your radar back faster. The last 4 points I spent on Incoming Fire Alert and Demolition Expert. I don't know if those two skills are really worth it. I think IFA is definitely not. I would take Preventative Maintenance instead. But one other option is to drop IFA and Demolition Expert and take Radiolocation. I think this might also be extremely useful, especially if you go for the Concealment build, but here I didn't. So obviously I go for the range upgrade, and here you can see Steering Gears modification too. Usually I would go for Concealment, but because, you know, the 10.7 Concealment, and the rudder shift is so bad, I think concealment makes more sense. Here we take propulsion mod, then aiming systems modification 1, obviously. You see, you don't really need it. You don't really need the turret traverse. It would be nice, but I think dispersion is better than the special radar mod. If not, you take damage control system modification 2, then main arms modification 1. Now, make sure that if you get the Buffalo, you set your fighter plane to a radar, because it comes by default with a fighter plane for some reason. I think that's really dumb, and I actually raised it with Wargaming, because I bet there are people who go into battle with a Buffalo and don't have radar because they forgot to change it. Anyway, I'm gonna show you what happens if you take the concealment upgrade. Sure, your concealment goes to 10.7 kilometers, cool, but your rudder shift is 11.2 seconds. Let's take a look at what the Baltimore is like, okay? No, where is it? No, that's not where the Baltimore is. Not quite. Oh, there's the Baltimore. Look at this, 7.8 second rudder shift. 7.8. It's something like 40% worse on the Buffalo. And initially I thought, you know, I just had the stock hull, but no, this is with the upgraded hull. So this is why you take steering gears, or at least why I have taken steering gears. 6.7 second. I know concealment goes to, you know, 11.9, but at least this is somewhat comparable. But imagine if you take steering gears on the Buffalo here, 6.3 seconds. I mean, it just doesn't make sense to me. Or on the Baltimore, sorry. It just doesn't make sense to me why Buffalo is this unmaneuverable. It really just doesn't. I really don't get it. So if you guys have any thoughts on how you should play the Buffalo, please let me know. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would like to thank the patrons on Patreon. Thank you very much for your continued support, and I hope I'll see you guys next time.